Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching from. Lots going on. And actually, most of this just it's a whirlwind of activity, a whirlwind, I should say, that just came about this morning. So lots going on. I'll give you your topics for the day. Here we go. That's that. Um, right. So, and just a reminder that I've already put some of the subjects in the description down below. So, if you're watching this on the replay later on, and there's something in particular that you want to uh, jump to, for example, the new Hyatt Vivid Resort, that was a surprise. If you wanted to jump forward to that, then you have the opportunity to do so. Once the show is finished, I will put the actual timing into the description down below so you can see exactly when it will start at that particular chapter, shall we say. And wow, 5 likes already. Thank you so much, you guys. I really appreciate the support. And if you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe. Trying to get to, well, I said yesterday in one of my recordings that I interviewed that I wanted to get to 10,000. I would love to get to 10,000 by the end of this year, but let's be realistic and say 8,000. So yeah, if you know somebody who's interested in travel and either wants to just jump on and chat about travel every Wednesday or wants to find out more about new resorts that are opening up, please invite them to subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. All right. So, yeah, so watch for those chapters down below. And that is something that I'm going to continue to do on a regular basis. So, like I said, if you're watching it on the replay later on, it just makes it a little bit easier, a little bit more organized for you. But I will still continue with the overall chapters on the side. So, okay, so this was the first thing I heard about this morning is some downgrades for the Sandos Caracol Resort. So this is a family-friendly resort in the Mayan Riviera, Cancun's Mayan Riviera, and it is, all-inclusive. It's more of an eco resort. So what they've done is they have built it into the flora and fauna of the area. So there's mangroves nearby. They have built a water park, which is available for all ages. That is free to use. But they also have a lot of different Mayan activities and stuff like that. A lot of wildlife is natural to the area. And overall, it's a pretty solid all-inclusive resort. However, and I'm a big fan of Sandos properties. Just returned last month from the Sandos Finisterra Resort in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. A little bit different of style of resort. That one, although it is family friendly, it really doesn't have any activities for the kids, and it is more adult oriented. But also, yeah, it's just slightly different. So the one in Mayan Riviera, the Sandos Caracol Eco Resort, it previously did require you to have reservations for a la carte dining, but let's also talk about some of the differences. So, in the past, what it was is it had unlimited a la carte dining, and that's kind of an evolution that all-inclusives have gone through, over the last, say, 10 years, where, in the past, it would be like if you're staying there for a week, you get 2 à la carte dinners, or you get 3 à la carte dinners, that kind of thing, depending on the room category you booked or whatever other factors. If you were only going for a weekend, 2 or 3 nights, you might only get 1 reservation at the a la carte dining, and then all the rest of your meals would be buffet. And in addition to this, they had 24-hour room service was included, no fees or anything like that. And they had exchange privileges with the Sandos Playa Car Resort. So, there was a few, it was pretty solid perks there. They didn't have a shuttle to the Sandos Playa Car, but it just gave you the opportunity if you wanted to go to Playa del Carmen. although the Playa car, so where you got Cancun, Playa del Carmen, is this the right way to do this? Cancun, Playa del Carmen? No, I guess it would be this way. I'm trying to think if I'm mirroring or not. Okay, so Cancun, Playa del Carmen, and then you've got Playa Car, which is at the south end of Playa del Carmen. And it's, probably an hour's walk from the Playa del Carmen ferry terminal that goes to Cozumel. So, would you necessarily decide, I'm going to go to Playa del Carmen for the day and then go and hang out at the Sandos Playa Car? Probably not, unless you were going to do a taxi or an Uber. But, it was nonetheless, it was a perk that was available. Well, things have changed. And I believe it's effective immediately. There is no longer unlimited a la carte dining. There are restrictions on this. And for example, if you're going there for a week, 7 or 8 night stay, you get three a la carte dinner reservations. You do still have to make a reservation. So if the place that you want to eat at is full, you're going to have to come up with a backup plan. If you stay longer than 7 or 8 nights, then for every 2 additional nights, you get 1 more a la carte reservation that you can do. In fairness, they do have 3 buffets, but as one of the my industry colleagues used to always say, "When's the last time you had a romantic buffet dinner?" And this is definitely true. But then maybe you like buffets, it's quick, it's easy, especially maybe with kids, it's easier because you can take them to the buffet and then get them back into the kids club and, off they go and they're playing and they're happy. But to me, this is not an enhancement, shall we say. And this is, I don't normally like to focus on negatives, but I mean, you gotta be honest there. Good morning, Angelo. How are you? Um, Hopefully, where are you at? Chicago. So how's your weather out there? I am curious. And I'm curious if you've ever been to the Sandos Caracol resort that we're talking about right now. Some big changes coming up with them. So the second thing is no more room service, like at all. To me, that's not a big deal because that's just not my jam. Although it used to be, I used to quite enjoy. I remember always checking into Dreams Port Aventuras Resort, and the first thing that I would do, because I would just jam my clothes in my suitcase to pack. And invariably, a lot of us women, if we're wearing nice clothes in the evening, a lot of those are linens or cottons. And once they cut, it doesn't matter how you fold them. When they come out of your suitcase, they're going to be wrinkled. So I used to enjoy, I would get into the room. And of course, I would do my room video for you guys. And then the first thing I would do is I would call room service and order a couple of glasses of wine. And I would turn the TV on to some crazy movie channel. Harry Potter, no matter what day or century it is, always seems to be on one of the channels. And I would iron my clothes, and then that's done. Clothes put away, everything's done. I could go and enjoy the resort, enjoy the rest of my vacation, don't have to worry. But could have a nice glass of wine while I would do that. So, oh, Angela's saying, yeah, hopefully Sandos rethinks it if enough people complain about it. Well, in the travel agent community, it's already getting a lot of negative press, to the point where some people are saying this is putting it on their do not sell list. So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But so yeah, restricted a la carte dining, no more room service, and also no more exchange privileges. And apparently, this actually started earlier this year. Again, the exchange privileges. I don't know that that's much of a loss. I mean, if you compare, for example, where the Secrets Resorts, Dreams Resorts have a dine around program, how often do people actually use these? Where, for example, a little bit different in Cancun, where you've got, Breathless or Dreams options nearby. But, some of the more remote properties, you could do the dine around where you could go in the evening from 6 p.m. until 11 p.m. and enjoy a meal at one of the other properties. Okay, I could see that, but, again, transportation is not included. So how many people are really taking advantage of that? So I'm not sure how much of a detractor that particular point is, but Angela says it's 29 Celsius here for those who report temperature properly. Oh, it's 85 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, well, I'm just gonna leave that one alone. Properly. Oh my goodness. Hey Louise, how are you? Good to hear from you. Yeah, so some big changes coming up for the Sandos Caracol Resort. Now, they have not said anything about any of the other properties. And of course, Sandos is located in, there's the Sandos Caracol, the Sandos Playa Car, and there's the Sandos Cancun property, which has just changed to be adult only. And then, of course, there is the Sandos Finisterra, which is family friendly, located right in the heart of Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. No announcements about any changes to those, but we'll see. Usually, in fairness, when a brand makes a big change like this, it is somewhat of an across the board thing. It's worth noting that they also have properties in Spain. And I think just Spain. So if you wanted to try an all-inclusive in Spain, there's a brand that you would know. What they may have found, though, is that they have what they may have done is they may have just realized that because it is a predominantly family-oriented resort, that maybe they found that most of the people were doing the buffets anyways, and if the a la cartes were sitting empty, then what's the point? So maybe I'm being judgmental, but I don't know. It just optically, it doesn't seem like a good thing, but that's just me. Angela's saying, remember when Vivid was doing the limited room service, and now, so it is back to 24 hours. I was going to ask about that. Much better. You don't have to think about it because that does relate to some other topics that we've got coming up. So let's jump into those. So the next one is the new Hyatt Vivid Resort. Again, this is one that I didn't see coming. We knew that they had announced the new Hyatt Vivid coming to Punta Cana. We don't know where. Well, no, we do. We know on that one that it's going to be one of the former Jewel properties. So but that hasn't been announced in terms of when that's going to take place. Also, there is a new Hyatt Vivid opening up in Acamel, which is sort of between Playa del Carmen and the southernmost point of the sort of main tourist area, which is Tulum. It's right in the middle there, and spectacular, beautiful beaches. The beaches are white and the water is clear. You can walk from the beach right into the ocean and you can swim with the turtles. So they're not trained, they're not in captivity, they're just wild turtles. And it's a pretty unique experience. So I'm pretty excited about that. But what has been announced as of this morning is that the Hilton Playa del Carmen is now going to be a Hyatt Vivid, effective immediately, effective June 11th of 2025. So my question is, what does this mean? Hilton was more, typical all-inclusive where you had different restaurants, again, unlimited a la carte dining. So that's the same. No advance reservations required. That's the same. Hilton I believe it did have some dress code requirements for certain restaurants. That's different because, of course, with the Vivid, their whole concept is casual and, more of a laid back approach to all inclusive. And so, yeah, is that going to mean that any restaurants that formerly had a dress code at the Hilton Playa del Carmen, now that it's Hyatt Vivid Playa del Carmen, Are those out the window? I don't know. Also, with the activities, remember when they first announced Hyatt Vivid was opening and there were activities announced, like there was going to be the golden hour gatherings and the bonfire musical nights, sing-alongs, that kind of thing, pastry classes, fashion shows, sunset yoga, pottery making, that's actually happening. Sunset yoga is also happening. Sound and crystal healing classes, cacao ceremonies, that kind of thing. Will that happen? I don't know. Room service was, you know what? And I'm not sure if that had a fee. But, will that be changing as well? Angelo, you know what? I don't know. So here's the thing. So Hilton and some of the other ones that I'm going to be talking about, these were properties that were managed by Playa Resorts. So you have the owners of the property, then you have the property, like the name of the property, and you can call it, Miguel's Resort, luxury resort, or you could go with a known brand in order to get a name like a Hyatt or a Hilton or a Marriott or any of the other, well-known brands. You have to meet a certain criteria. They'll come and inspect the property. They'll check your service levels. They'll check the menus, the food quality, ingredients, that kind of thing. It has to meet a certain criteria in order for them to align you with their brand. We've seen this before where, brands have allowed, and a lot of times it's like smaller hotels in smaller towns. You'll see, in Kelowna, Kelowna, BC, British Columbia, you might see a resort that is called a Courtyard by Marriott. And then next thing you know, it's a Fairfield Inn or something. So sometimes if there's a change in service levels, then they may be able to upgrade to a better known brand, or they might be downgraded, or they might just become, Angie's Guest House. So yeah, that's for the process. Then on top of that, you have sometimes a property management company, and this is basically company, they'll come in, they take care of basically all the day-to-day operations of the property. So it could still retain that name, but you have this other management group who comes in and they take care of the day-to-day operations. And so Playa was a management company that they looked after the, Hyatt Ziva Riviera Cancun, the Hyatt Ziva Riviera Maya, Zilara Riviera Maya, also a few of the other ones. And Hyatt, World of Hyatt or Hyatt Inclusive Collection hotels purchased them in February of this year. So that was an acquisition. And what that is going to look like is anybody's guess. So there's been quite a few changes as of today, and we're going to also get into these a bit shortly. Hey Jane, how are you? Yeah, it's yeah, I woke up and I saw this and it was like, whoa, I gotta go and put all this together and find out more. Yeah. So Angela's saying makes sense that the managed properties start switching over to Hyatt owned brands since they got bought out. Well, they were World of Hyatt before. So even, like the Hyatt Ziva Cancun, any of the original Ziva and Zilara properties, you could collect your World of Hyatt points, but they weren't necessarily part of the Hyatt Inclusive Collection, because back then there was AM Resorts was so confusing. Was the group who sort of ran all of those properties. So they're still called Breathless Secrets, Dreams, Sunscape, but they were under the umbrella of AM Resorts. Now they've been bought out by Hyatt, the umbrella of Hyatt Inclusive Collection, which is just part of Hyatt Hotels. And a lot of this is just stuff that is in the background that, you as a tourist wouldn't necessarily know, other than, the Angelos of the world who are trying to get their points or use their points, that kind of thing. But yeah, otherwise, it doesn't really make a whole lot of a big hill of beans difference. But unfortunately, I swear there's already a meme floating around circulating, because there's some of the fan groups are pretty upset because if you booked to stay at the Hilton, for example, you're arriving tomorrow and you're with 3 other couples and you booked it through the Hilton website and you put it on your credit card, no problem. Unless you used points, in which case it's my understanding that any reservation that was made with points has been canceled. I don't know what people are doing to fix this. Hey, cruising with Calandra. Hello, welcome. Yeah, so if you book to stay at the Hilton for this weekend or any date in the future, it's my understanding that they have simply canceled the reservations. I don't know if they're going to allow you to rebook with an alternate property, or I mean, obviously they're going to refund your points, but that doesn't help you if you're on a plane from England flying there now, because with the time change and the flying time and all that. Yeah. Oh, okay. Drone pilot who films cruise ships here, similar to Cruise Nuts, I think it is. Cruise Monkeys, Cruise Nuts. Very cool. I'll have to check out your channel. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, Angela says, yeah, he works those points so hard. It's true, but why not, right? If you travel a lot, especially if you're traveling for work where the company's paying for your accommodations anyways, you may as well get the free perk of being able to enjoy either some upgrades for your personal travel or upgrades for your work travel. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. And also, if you can get some free nights out of it for your personal time off to get a free stay, then all the better. Oh, cool. Awesome. Well, if you enjoy the channel, please subscribe. We were just talking earlier about setting some goals for subscribers. So trying to hit 8,000 this year. So if you enjoy the channel, please subscribe. And while you guys are here, if you haven't already done so, and a lot of you have, thank you so much. Thumbs up today. Wow, you guys are on the ball. So yeah, I really appreciate that. That's amazing. Okay, so let's talk about all these other changes. And I think I have did I make a list? It was just like frenzy this morning. So pretty much anything that was a Hilton is no longer a Hilton. So Hilton Rose Hall in Jamaica is now Dreams Rose Hall. Hilton La Romana, the adult only side of the house, because they're two properties somewhat separate, but they're co-located. The adult side of the house is now Secrets La Romana. The family side is Dreams La Romana. This begs the question, in the past, some properties such as it was previously the now Amber and the Secrets Vallarta Resort in Puerto Vallarta, I mean, they're literally part of the same U-shaped building. And for the most part, you could have exchange privileges. Adults staying on the now or the dream side could go to the adult side, and adults could go to the other. Then for a while it changed, and adults on the secret side could go to the amber side, but dreams adults couldn't go over that. And, so will that be a change at La Romana? I don't know. Also, Hilton did have a fee for room service. Actually, Amanda, my colleague, and we were just doing an updated video review from the property yesterday. So I'll get that edited and I'll get that out soon to you guys. But we were just talking about it yesterday. They had a fee for room service. Secrets typically does not. So will we see a change to that? Will the room service become free? Who knows? Oh, yay. Thanks very much. Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, inquiring minds want to know, right? Like, what else is going to change? Also, will the Dreams guests be able to go over to the secrets bars, restaurants, pools, where, as of yesterday, adults staying on the family side of the Hilton La Romana were able to go over to the adult side. So, who knows? Okay, yeah. So Angelo is going to be at the Secrets Vallarta property in November. I'm not sure if I knew that or not. So just making notes. PV. Yeah, I mean, stay tuned because this all just took place this morning. Now, it wasn't a complete surprise. There was some discussion about it, but this blindsided a lot of travelers for sure. And I guess those of us who weren't 100% keeping track of all this stuff, it was a bit of a surprise to us as well. So what other changes were there? So the La Romana Rose Hall, Hilton obviously became a Vivid, and so forth. So, will there be other changes? Who knows? Also going to the Secrets Bahia Mira. Yeah, I'm curious to hear what you think of that property, because that's another one where it was like, okay, adults can go everywhere. No, now they can only go everywhere if you're staying on the secret side and so forth. So, who knows? Oh, so Tammy's joined in. She's watching, but for some reason she cannot chat. She doesn't have a chat box. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. We did have some technical difficulties last week, or I should say YouTube had some. So I don't know if those are carrying on. But yeah. And she just sent me the list as well of all the changes that are happening. So basically, anything that was part of Playa management, I think is moving over to the Hyatt all-inclusive collection side of things. So, what's that going to look like? Because there are still the outliers, the Hyatt Ziva Cancun, Hyatt Zilara Cancun, the Hyatt Ziva Puerto Vallarta, the Hyatt Ziva Los Cabos, and of course the flagships, Hyatt Ziva and Zilara Cap Cana. Because I think Rose Hall already switched over. I'm not sure. So yeah, I mean, it's not a big deal, right? But it is going to change little subtle things. So, and is it going to be a change for the better or a downgrade? Like I said, with the Vivid, it was a little bit more, casual, relaxed, no dress code, no, long pants required for men, no collared shirts, that kind of thing. So is that going to change? I don't know. But we'll have to keep an eye on it. That's for sure. Angela says when he's there in November, he will find out about the switching over, so that'll be good. And Louise is going to Secrets Royal in Punta Cana, end of October. Nice. Angelo, it's the only one he hasn't been to. Yet, except for Playa Esmeralda that is opening soon. Yeah, and I actually might be heading there as well. So we'll have to see. We're definitely all going to want to hear what Louise thinks of it. So that'll be interesting. Okay, so a few changes with the Hiltons, and notwithstanding that, there's also some additional changes for the what was it? The Wyndham Cancun, the Wyndham Alltra Cancun. This is so much to keep track of. Honestly, it's and again, I will say that within the travel agent community, it's just like, oh, for the love, like, why do they keep changing the names? Why? It makes it confusing. And here's another thing for all of the people when anyone tries to tell you, oh, I get all my advice for travel on TripAdvisor. You know how many people write their reviews on TripAdvisor? They're not even talking about the right hotel. You know, seriously, like so you go to the Rio Palace in Cancun, and what you meant to do a review on was the Sun Palace in Cancun. Like, sure, they kind of got a same name, but not really. And like totally different companies, totally different caliber of service. Yeah. So yeah, it makes it very confusing, that's for sure. Um, very lush. Yeah, not so much. I don't mind a resort that's got the palm trees and stuff, but I do prefer it to be a little bit more. I guess maybe that's why I liked the Vivid so much. I do prefer a resort that's a little bit more. Although I really like the layout of the Rio Santa Fe. And the whole stylings of it, sort of more colonial Mexico, or maybe not colonial, but what's the word? I don't know, just got a more like hacienda style feel to it. So I wanted to talk about so the the Wyndham Alltra Cancun. So back in 2004, the Continental Plaza Cancun became the Grand Caribe Real. Fast forward to 2017, the Grand Caribe Real became Panama Jack Cancun. Huge rebranding, renovations. They even stuck a plane into the roof of the lobby. Changed it all in terms of the decor, the offerings. They had fresh cinnamon buns that they had at the coffee shop, which was, of course, like any of these ones these days, it's a coffee cafe. So it's got little light snacks and stuff. And if you ever heard the bell, ding, 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 that meant that the cinnamon buns had just come fresh out of the oven. So if you were hungry and you wanted a nice little sweet, hot treat, oh, that was the place to be. Then, of course, 2020, we all know what happened there. Doesn't need to be mentioned. 2021, Panama Jack stepped away. Again, they were a brand that the hotel decided to align itself with, and Panama Jack decided to, I think they have altogether gone out of the hotel business. I'm not 100% sure. So then it became Wyndham Alltra Cancun. And then as of today, June 11th, 2025, Wyndham Alltra Cancun is now known as the Sunscape Cancun. And with that, again, and when we talk about the different brands under the Hyatt All-Inclusive Collection list, and I should have done a mock-up on this, but basically kind of at the top, you've got 𝖳𝗏𝖺, and you would find some of the Hyatt Zilara properties, as well as Hyatt Z. And then it kind of gets a bit fuzzy, but sort of in the next tier is like some Hyatt Zilaras, some Hyatt Zivas, Secrets, Breathless, as well as Dreams properties. Next down from that, they got rid of the Now products. So next down from that is Sunscape. And I don't even, if you want to go like, where does Wyndham fall into there? I don't know. And then below Sunscape is Allura. And we don't have any of those out here in in the Americas. But they are a brand that is very popular in Spain and in, is there some in Portugal as well, I think? I stayed at one of the ones in Spain, very, cheap and cheerful, but it was so inexpensive that it was a great place. It was a family reunion trip, which is like the ideal scenario for that. We have family all around the world. So coming up from Africa, from England, from Canada, Spain sort of seemed like a sort of central gathering point. And the Allura brand is much more basic, but, you know, it included all the drinks. It included buffet breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And like the buffet was nothing to write home about. But for breakfast, I mean, what do you need? You got some meat product, you got some egg product, you got some bread product. And for those who drink coffee, they can get their coffee. And then for the rest of the meals, we kind of would go out into the local area because they had such a great selection of hotels nearby. This was the Allura Gulf Trinidad property. You know, it is an awesome option, very inexpensive, as I say, so something to consider. But the Allura certainly would be their lowest, like entry level property. You know, in terms of, you know, if you've got the LeBlancs of the world and the Grand Villas, um, some of those ones at the five, if that's a 5-star, then Allura would be like a 2-star, maybe even a 1-star. I mean, but no, like what's a 1-star resort these days, right? But something's got to be right. Somebody's gotta um, you know, take the hit and be a 2-star or a 1-star property. So I then would put a Wyndham solidly, or Wyndham, or even a Sunscape at a solid 3-star. You know, with Sunscape and with Wyndham, you do have a la carte dining. You still have, it's still unlimited. Um, I think there was limited room service, maybe not. I'd have to double check that one. And you know, you're still having name brand drinks, so it's not just national brand well drinks, right? So a lot of times that's important to people, because if you're used to drinking a certain brand, you know, just the flavoring can make a difference. If you're mixing it with Coke, or you're making a Caesar or a Bloody Mary, does it really matter what kind of vodka you use? I mean, to me, probably not. You know, I remember going to fancy resorts, and they're making me a Caesar, and they're making it with Grey Goose vodka. Like, you can make it with Absolute. It's fine. It's not like I'm going to taste it over the tomato and Worcestershire and Tabasco, right? I don't know. What do you think? Um, okay, so Angela's saying he thought that Hyatt was letting the Sunscape brand sort of fade out, been able to invest again into it again. How was that Wyndham property? Well, the Wyndham, it was all the same property, you know, again. So the building per se didn't change. The offerings per se didn't change, you know, between it being Panama Jack or Wyndham or Sunscape, or even the Grand Caribe Real. You know, it's all the same building. And you know, again, you know, you still have your a la carte, you still have your various buffets, you still have your name brand drinks. So yeah, I think if they're smart, they will recognize that, you know, there is always going to be a market for a more lead-in product. You know, and certainly that's what the Sunscape or the Wyndham would be. There's nothing wrong with it. If you're going with a group of people, it's perfect. If you're going on your first all-inclusive vacation, maybe for your whole life you've always been a cruiser, and you want to see what all inclusive is like, maybe that's a good idea for you, because you certainly don't want to start off going to like LeBlanc, or I'm trying to think what a really posh, oh, the starts with an M, in Cancun. I cannot think of the name of it, but it's like super posh. But even again, you know, the looking at the Hyatt Ziva Zilara and Cap Cana, I mean, those are $800 to $1,000 a night per room. So, you know, do you want to start out with something like that? You know, the Hyatt Ziva Zilara and Cap Cana and Punta Cana, I mean, the gym is larger than most houses. There's so much different equipment to use. They have so many different dining options, really nice cuts of meat, really good quality ingredients, you know, bespoke cocktails. You know, if you want to make a smoked cocktail, it's no problem. Pretty much any of the bartenders at the property can do this. So the training level is high. You know, and in terms of the quality of alcohol that they have available, really good selection, as well as good caliber. So do you want that to be your first all-inclusive experience? I mean, if you can afford to continue that, then yes, right? If you can do the best, if you can fly first class all the time, why not? But if you're going to have to fly economy, maybe, put that into consideration. Um, um, Louise is saying Wyndham, Alltra, and Punta Cana and Mishas are rated on travel websites as 5 stars. Well, sure they are, but aren't we all 10 out of 10s? I mean, it's like, the Rio resorts, they freely call the Rio Santa Fe a 5-star property. I like the property. It's not 5 stars. You can't, like, seriously, it's not. It's just not. But yeah. He's gonna check it out on TripAdvisor. Yeah, just make sure they're talking about that property, because they could be talking about some other resort that had a W and an A in the name, right? I mean, it's funny. Yeah. I read a few reviews, and every once in a while something will come up in the news or whatever, and it's like, it's like anytime there's a shooting in Cancun, it's like, oh, there was a shooting in the Cancun resort. It was at the Secrets Zacamao. And I'm totally making this up. This is not a true story. It's just like what they'll say in the headlines is like, there's a shooting in a major hotel tourist area in the tourist corridor in Cancun. Well, at highway speeds, that's about an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 40 minutes from Cancun. So really, are we really going to call that the tourist zone in Cancun? But whatever. If it sells the story, makes you click on an article, then there you go. Was it Dreams all renovated? Yeah, I mean, like they're nice properties, but just in terms of the offerings, they wouldn't be considered a 5-star for sure. And they don't, as a brand, Hyatt doesn't. I mean, and maybe this is just the industry talk. Is they will say, here's our different brands. And here's our target demographics. So target demographic, for example, for a Vivid resort is sort of a younger professional, as somebody who's ecologically minded, wellness, enriching activities, that kind of thing. And that is totally aligned with what they have planned and sometimes executed on. Whereas with a 𝖳𝗏𝖺, a 𝖳𝗏𝖺 is a more affluent traveler, typically couples, maybe with kids, but probably kids are grown and out of the house. They've moved out. Professionals, and looking for a higher end vacation. Sunscape would be more like younger families, more maybe younger travelers, 20 somethings who, they haven't reached that point in their career where they're necessarily able to afford the 𝖳𝗏𝖺, nor do they really want it, because 𝖳𝗏𝖺 is really poised as a sort of relaxed kind of luxury Zen kind of vacation, whereas a 20 something has way more energy than me and probably is looking for a place that's got a nightclub and a place to burn off some energy, and maybe to if they're single, maybe they're looking to find some new friends, people to hang out with, that kind of thing. So each brand has their own target, but as I say, the oh, okay, yeah. So again, this is a perfect example, Louise. The Rio Bamboo, you walk by the front door, it says 5 stars. So, I mean, come on. So yeah, and it's, a lot of times, so technically when you're going to, like there's the Zagat ratings and all this kind of stuff, but there isn't really a specific rating system unless you're getting into, like I said, the Zagats, the 5 Diamond Awards. So that's really something you want to look at. If you want to know what properties are high end, then you want to look to something that's going to be more of a 5 Diamond. That said, like I know when they built Secrets at Camal, first and foremost in their mind is they wanted that 5 Diamond rating. And the first year they didn't get it, and I forget why. I think it was partly because all the greenery that they'd planted, some of it was some pretty exotic stuff, and it just hadn't had a chance to grow into, well, it's like when you move into a new house and you've got a landscape, it takes a while for everything to, you know, grow and be like the way it should look ultimately. But they did ultimately get it. And one of the key factors in getting the 5 diamond rating is not only the food and the service, but the caliber of the ingredients, the way it's prepared, knowing the chefs knowing how to properly cook the steak, cooking the fish, having stuff like tuna tartare or carpaccios, that kind of thing, where it's properly presented. So presentation is a big part of it. Think of a Gordon Ramsay evaluating it. And then also you have another huge factor is, the use of like local products, such as like locally sourced wood from the area, locally sourced art on the walls, that kind of thing. So a lot of that plays in. Going back to talking about the Rio bamboo, Angela says it's probably a 5-star in 2001. Yeah, but that's part of it too. If the resorts aren't putting the money into the maintenance of these properties, then you can't fill these resorts to the rafters day in, day out, every day of the year, and then not have to do some renovations. It's just gonna have to happen. So, but yeah, those are some big changes with some pretty well-known brands that occurred this morning. So that was a bit of a woof. So if you're looking for these properties now, if you search for Hyatt Vivid Playa del Carmen, it's not going to come up. You're going to only see web links to Hyatt Vivid Grand Island, unless they sponsor some links on the web. But those can be pretty expensive to do. Trust me, I know. But if you search for Hilton Playa del Carmen, you can see the search results, and it'll do an automatic redirect to Playa del Carmen is the Hyatt Vivid Playa del Carmen. And it's going to take a little bit of time for all of the web stuff to get completed, as well as, like, for example, the apps. When I pulled up the Inclusive Collection app this morning, if I type in Vivid, all that comes up is the Cancun Grand Island. But probably it's not going to take long, I think, for them to get that converted and have that show the Hyatt Vivid Playa del Carmen. So, little things like that's going to take a little bit of time, but yeah, but big news, huh? So it's going to be confusing for a little while. And again, we will, especially with the confusion of, some of the Playa del Carmen, the Cancun stuff, with the naming, like, it's all so similar. So if you're booking something, and if you're booking it yourself, make for damn sure that you're booking the right place, because otherwise you could be booking to Sydney in Canada instead of Sydney, Australia. It's not really a fair example, but there have been a lot of people who have booked, thought they were going to Australia and ended up on Canada's east coast instead. Not a very happy place to be. Well, I've never been, but I'm sure it's a very nice place to be, a very happy place to be, but not so much when you were planning on a trip to Australia. Okay, so some other unrelated news going on. So just found out there was a big leak that flight data is being sold. This is apparently happening for U.S. flights departing in the U.S. and trips purchased within the U.S. So basically, they're selling your flight data. So everything from all of the information that you entered into booking your trip, including your credit card information. And this is going to Homeland Security and Border Control. This interestingly enough, is apparently the information is only the info that is from online travel agencies. So if you book it direct with the airlines, if you go to, I was going to say Continental, if you go to American Airlines or Alaska Airlines, apparently they don't have access to this information. It's only if you booked through some reseller like Expedia or Skyscanner or any of those. If you and but the information that they've got goes back to more than 3 years ago. So there's a lot of information in there. Again, all of this is being done in the guise of keeping out the baddies, um, which is good. But if your name is similar to somebody who's a baddie, then you're probably going to have some issues. So yeah, interesting to know. Saw no more Sunwing at the airport. You have to look for WestJet. Yeah, so that's the other thing. So Sunwing is now officially defunct. Their last flight was, I think, 3 or 4 weeks ago. So some of the one of the things you have to watch now is what the aircraft is that they're using. So for some of I think mostly mostly Sunwing was charter flights. So this is for Canadians. But you just want to keep an eye on what kind of plane it is, because that'll tell you right there if it's worth it to upgrade or not. When we flew back from Cabo, at the front of the plane, I don't know. I'd have to go back. Actually, I could go back and look to see what type of plane it was, but it was older, smaller equipment. It was like it definitely wasn't a 737 Max. So if we had booked the premium seats or the business class seats, it wouldn't have been your typical business class experience. So yeah, you do have to be conscious of that. So yeah, about the data being sold, just make sure you're booking it direct through the airline, so that you don't have to worry. Also just read that Brand USA Marketing, that the government is saying they want to basically drop their budget by 80%. So instead of having $100 million to spend on attracting tourism to the US, they now only have 20 million, which still sounds like a lot, but as we know, just looking at the numbers, that there's been some huge drops in travel to the US. Canadian travel is down 24%. So far year to date, but it is trending downward. So who knows how that'll end by the end of the year. So just to put context on that, in 2024, Canadians spent just over $20 billion in tourism dollars in the US. So, in terms of activities, tours, attractions, hotels, that kind of thing. So that's a big chunk of money, and taking a quarter out of that would drop that down by $5 billion. That's a lot of money, a lot of jobs. And just to put that in perspective, by comparison, if you look at all of the Americans, all 340 million of them, how much they spent at McDonald's last year, it was over 10 billion. So double the amount of money was spent on tourism dollars in the US. And yeah, and it's trending downward. Overall, internationally, it is trending downwards as well. Currently at 9% below last year's international incoming travel, which basically shows towards a tourism loss of $8.5 billion. But it's projected to be 21 billion by the end of the year if the trend continues. So not good for the USA branding tourism, because they do need the money. They want the money coming in to keep the jobs, to keep the tourism going, to keep the attractions going, all that kind of stuff, because they're expensive to run. On the positive side, lower demand means lower prices. So for all of you in America, now's your time to go to Disneyland, Universal, Knott's Berry Farm, because prices will continue to be dropping on those, as well as hotels. So again, if you're planning on taking a trip, we should be seeing those prices drop. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Louise is saying, yeah, Sunwing only had the Boeing planes. Yeah, they had the 737s, and they had the Max 8s, which it's interesting that I don't know. Is this weird to you? It's weird to me that after the Max 8s got grounded for what was it, 2 years after those two plane crashes in Malaysia, and then now all of a sudden nobody like thinks twice about flying on a Max 8. I don't know. I thought it was odd, but who knows? Yeah, so that's kind of it for travel news. Other than if you're a Canadian, just keep an eye on the news because there is the potential for a strike with the Air Canada flight attendants. That's sort of late summer, but yeah, they're looking for an increase. Some of them make as little as $27,000 a year for full-time wage. So obviously, with all the extra things that they have to do to keep the plane safe and to keep everything running smoothly, they're looking for an increase. And the pilots just got a whopper increase, like a big one. WestJet went first. WestJet pilots went first. They got a big increase. Air Canada went second. They wanted to be on par with the American pilots. I would argue why, because that's a different country. How much do pilots make in Qatar or Japan or Spain? It's about as relevant. Again, that's just my opinion. Don't hate me. Or hate me, but give me a like and subscribe. I don't mind. I'll take it. But yeah, so this is a looming thing that they've been into discussions for a while now, and so there's potential for strike, but that's at the end of summer. So if you are coming to Canada and you're flying on Air Canada, just be aware of that. If you are planning on booking a trip, that might be something to put into your consideration. Usually they're pretty good at bluffing on these things, or at least using the threat of a strike to get the talks back happening again. So fingers crossed it all gets resolved quite well and easily on that. Yeah, this is so true. Angela says people have short attention spans, always onto something new that's shiny. Squirrel! Yeah, 100%. So thanks for tuning in, you guys. It was actually a really good chat today, and well, not that it normally isn't, but lots of input from all of you. So thanks, especially Louise and Angelo for that. Christine is busy cruising in Europe right now. I've been following some of her posts on Facebook. She looks like she's having an amazing time. So can't wait to hear back from her when she is back from vacation. But looks like a fabulous trip. So thanks for tuning in, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And we will see you again next Wednesday. So thanks for coming. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for tuning in. And we'll see you next Wednesday. Same time, same place. Bye for now.